and welcome to the Eves News Network. My name is Pierre Sanin, and on tonight's special programming, we will be interviewing Gavin Jonchus' South African coloring book. Inspired by his life, Jonchus used silkscreen press and other various media forms to tell a story about identity. I will be going page by page and bringing in other various actors to tell a new story about the coloring book. Before we begin, I want to read you an excerpt from Gavin Jonchus' coloring book. In the introduction, a short poem by Ilva McKay reads, "I am part of me. You are part of me. We are the people. We are the majority. We were the silent majority. No more. No more. No, no, no." On that same page, Jonchus notes the fact that participation in the arts in culture naturally has to have some link to struggle, a communal struggle, and most profoundly, a silent struggle. I think this speaks very much to your art, and if I can be so bold to assume the intent behind it. Pictures are silent, but that doesn't mean they don't have anything to say. I feel the same way when I look at yours. That silence can be engaging. You have been very open about the fact that your art attempts to display the Black body and the queer body without shame or without violence and punishment. That it can just exist. In the same way the coloring book speaks to the never-ending, self-sustaining process of culture, so does your photography. Black queerdom is a silent minority globally, but in an apartheid state that has been tied to this tension between whiteness, blackness, and colored, where does queerdom sit? To me, as in your photography, it also sits in silence, but as I have learned, and as I have mentioned, there is no true silence. Your photograph, just like Jonchus' silkscreens do, produce culture and therefore shape and give voice. Your queering does the same. You are not just queer by way of your sexuality, you are actively queering the world around you, molding it through your photography by silently claiming your existence. There's an inherent power to that. There's another poem I'd like to read you, if I may. We'll evolve from one germ, molecule of freedom, into millions more. We'll pollute your white air with black fury, till it's filled to the brim. Then white South Africa will come down upon you as an epidemic of black freedom hunters. Stephen Smith writes this, and I love the way in which he embraces shame here. That blackness is a pollutant, but something that demands to be taken seriously, demands to take up space. In what is described as clean and pure, words often associated with whiteness, I explore this idea behind shame as a central through line to these works, and I think this photograph exudes the same dichotomy Smith's poem does. You embrace that blackness of your skin against a white lip. You embrace the primitiveness of the clothespin, morphing it into something very fashionable. You confront your audience. It's not a soft expression, but then again, Black women are not deemed soft, no? In all of these ways, you embrace shame, and by embracing shame, by making art out of it, you shape culture. You are not the typical silent that is void. You are the silence that we must sit with in our heads and our hearts. The ringing in our ears after loudness. I imagine that after all those gunshots rang out during the Soweto uprisings, as Jonchus writes, there was this loud silence. That's what I'm trying to describe. I get the same feeling when I'm confronted with your photography. So, before I continue to ramble about the beauty and arresting nature of your photography, explain to me what your process is. What is the intentionality behind your gaze, your bareness, and your silence?
Can I own my voice? Can I own me? Because my mother never had an opportunity to own her own voice until she died. There are a lot of beautiful humans out there who get to be in covers of magazines and they loved dearly. Why are ordinary people only featured in any magazine when there's tragedy? Why are there no images of queer people, especially Black people? And yet people are told that you have a right to be. Yes, apartheid period has its own visuals. Those were photography of resistance. They're known, they're common, they're bloody. I just wanted to produce images that spoke to me as a person, that still speak to me now. I'm boiling inside. Like any other great man, I want to be counted in history. I want to produce that history. I want to basically say, this is me. I photograph myself to remind thyself that you exist. I guess most of what I do is shaped by her life and the way of doing things.
I often wonder why it's the female body that becomes a battleground for identity politics and, more frankly, a battle of inner and outer shame. It's not just shame around sexuality or shame between black versus white, rather a culmination of these spaces. Who is deemed pure in one space versus another? What is purity even in this day and age? Is there pure whiteness, pure blackness, a pure colored in between? Wycombe wrote about it in her essay around shame and identity, that here, surely, are echoes of the tragic mode, where lived experience is displaced by an aesthetic theory. How one is tempted to ask, do people who live in communities inhabit spookily and precariously a rim of in-between reality? Symbolically, of course, and therefore, according to Gordimer, in silence, the shame of it all encoded in the word taboo. Surely relegation to such a space relies on an essentialist view which posits a pure reality that is experienced in the space inhabited by the racially pure. I think of Miss Nigeria, who last year was the first runner-up of the Miss Universe pageant. She had to deal with this state of in-betweenness, identity, and shame. Perhaps she wasn't shamed, rather, South Africa was ashamed of her. Though she was ancestrally Nigerian, she was born and raised in South Africa. Perhaps there's a certain hybridity here, geographically at least, that can give credence to a debate on representation, but we all know that that wasn't the real issue. The real issue was revealed when South Africa instead opted for a white representation, and then Chindimna had to run in Nigeria instead. In the corner of one of the pages of the coloring book, Fanon writes, having judged, condemned, abandoned his cultural forms, his language, his food habits, his sexual behavior, his way of sitting down, of resting, of laughing, of enjoying himself, the oppressed flings himself upon the oppressed culture and the desperation of a drowning man. And on that same page, ironically, what looks like a pageant of some sort, emblazoned at the bottom sits the words, "Color these blacks white." Can it be said that this geographical hybridity created shame around her, or was there shame around her blackness? If she was not South African enough, then what was? Who is? We certainly won't find the answer in the spectrum of blackness and whiteness, which inherently is problematic as oppositional forces, but it would appear South Africa loves its oppositional forms, at least to some degree, as the verbiage used always sits in some frame of post-coloniality. Even black, white, colored, shame, and taboo do. We can say on a base level that even the word identity does. Chindinma did not deserve what happened to her. You can see her pain grow as she tells her story. So I ask, why was her heritage used against her? Was she not geographically, culturally, and as a citizen South African? Her body was made to be that of the Venus Hottentot, controlled by the politics of location, denying her self-construction of identity. Ultimately, what does this mean for locality, hybridity, and citizenship within South Africa? Who is this true South African here, and why?
Because of my name, people were not happy that my name is Chidima and I am representing South Africa. So that is where it actually really started. And, you know, people felt like, well, South Africans felt like I wasn't South African enough because of my name. And it was really sad to see. It was a very horrible experience and I wouldn't wish it on anybody because I have lived there for 23 years. And it's heartbreaking to see that I wasn't welcomed and accepted. there were certain things that happened behind the scene that actually made me withdraw, and it was so heartbreaking to see that I had to withdraw close to the finale, and but a decision had to be made, and it really hit social media as well.
Yeah.
And there was some statements that came out from Home Affairs with regards to my mom's ID as well, and that is still a legal matter, so I'm not going to comment on that. But what I do know is that I was born in South Africa, and I am a South African.
Yes, I do feel like I was Nigerian, and I've always felt Nigerian from the moment that I was born. It's not just because of the opportunity that was presented to me, and I think people who have known me will see that I've always embodied that spirit of being a pure, proudly Nigerian woman. So I don't want people to feel like she only feels Nigerian just because, you know, she was offered an opportunity.
Miss South Africa 2024 is Mia!
What planet does this make sense to anyone? You see, we have a black beauty pageant contestant, yeah? That's the black girl in the picture. She's a bit of all right. They badgered her and they said, you can't represent South Africa. You can't be Miss South Africa because your dad is Nigerian and your mom's from Mozambique. You were born in South Africa, but what way are you South African? You don't have South African blood. They find out she's a South African citizen, but they just keep badgering her, and eventually she says, you know what? Yeah, I've made it to the late stages of this competition, but I'm gonna pull out. And some people said you should pull out, yeah, because you're not really South African, yeah, because we know what South Africans look like. So who do they pick to be the winner of Miss South Africa? They pick a woman with green eyes.
I've been hearing word of a white genocide in South Africa. Perhaps this is my bias coming into play, but I am skeptical. Trump's white nationalism knows no bounds, it seems. I understand that in recent years there's been an uprising. People have died and death is tragic on either side. Reclamation of land seems to be the goal. As it appears, white farmers are now being pushed to the edge of the land they have... Forgive me. Poor white farmers are being pushed. Which, to be clear, is about 1% to the black South Africans, 50 to 60%, but I digress. I did not bring Donald Trump into this conversation without purpose. I don't bring white nationalism into this conversation unnecessarily either. It's no secret or subterfuge that Trump has been called a fascist in every regard, and we're seeing the same Nazi-branded fascism play out right in front of our eyes. It is interesting then that John just puts a sketch of Adolf Hitler in his coloring book. It is a playful sketch, sinister in origin, but playful nonetheless. The true purpose of the page is to liken Prime Minister J.B. Vorster to Hitler, to touch on the Oseo Brandwag, a militant, nationally socialist movement which sought the establishment of the authoritarian state. So can you please explain this white genocide to me then? A few white farmers have died, I won't deny that. Genocide is a very heavy, multiplicitous term. I want to be intentional about the land, the people toiling the land, the dispute over the land, and how we got here before we name it. For you see, I find Fanon to be prolific in the construction of white versus black, the tension that exists between them, unspoken and spoken. He spoke about South Africa, you know, that South Africa was a powder keg where whites abuse blacks. The 1-to-4, white to black. This ratio in play. Maybe this is relevant, or maybe I'm being self-serving, but I'd like to read you something before you respond. Negrophilism and philanthropy are insults in South Africa. The agenda is to separate the natives from the Europeans, territorially, economically, and politically, and to allow them to set up their own civilization under the authority of the whites, but with minimum contact between the races. The aim is to reserve land for the natives and force the majority of them to live on it. Economic competition would be eliminated, and the groundwork would be laid for the rehabilitation of the poor whites who make up 50% of the European population. It's no exaggeration to say that most South Africans feel an almost physical revulsion as regards to anything that places a native or a person of color on their level. It's heavy, I know, but Fanon did say that the black man was a phobogenic object, that he causes unrest just by existing. In this instance, shame is placed upon us, it's fed to us and weaponized against us. This in-between identity, not quite one thing, not another, different economics, different spaces, and different things to feel shame about. In this case, it is the tension that causes shame, or is it shame that causes tension? Forgive me, I've gone on another tangent. We were talking about white genocide. Can I ask before you answer, what of the students, some as young as 13, that died for their civil rights? Not economic like you are. Was that a genocide too, or just a moment in apartheid history? So I ask you once more, is there a white genocide in South Africa? And also, does whiteness and blackness always have to exist in violence? In tension? I'm inclined to say yes, but let's hear your thoughts on the matter.
In South Africa, it's hard to just be white in South Africa.
Does that mean you think the term white genocide is appropriate?
It's like a slow war, a slow genocide that's keeping on.
The white minority in South Africa feels under attack.
I don't say apartheid was maybe the right thing, but there wasn't as much murder, there wasn't as much crime.
In a nation scarred by a racist past, this sounds like the old regime spreading lies.
I want to put categorically clear that we're not killing white people.
We were hoping that we'll get what the white people took from us. It's like they playing games with us.
This is the myth of a white genocide and the failure of post-apartheid South Africa. It's a pretty amazing landscape, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Beautiful.
It's very beautiful.
And you've always lived here?
Yes. All of us were staying in these mountains.
Yeah.
Then we were chased by whites to settle down there.
Yeah. On a hillside in Limpopo province, in South Africa's far north, a tranquil setting that hides so much history and pain. What were the stories you were told about being pushed off the land?
It was not negotiable. You were told, they were actually instructed, and those who resisted, they perished there. So you were supposed to comply. It is the legacy of apartheid.
During apartheid, Mahali's family was forced from their land in these lush hills and moved down below. When that system fell 30 years ago, the community was promised they would one day return.
Because it's a sense of ownership. Because if you don't have the land, you have nothing. It's like you are an empty man.
The land and who owns it, and the past and how you resolve it, is the story of modern South Africa. And it is one that now interests the White House.
Death, death, death.
Donald Trump's administration claims that white people are now being forced from their land and often murdered.
But you do allow them to take land. No. You do allow them to take land. Nobody can take land. And then when they take the land, they kill the white farmer. And when they kill the white farmer, nothing happens to them. No.
It led to a dressing down of President Cyril Ramaphosa and has seen America now offer white South Africans asylum so as to avoid a so-called white genocide. Many white farmers believe they still have a right to the land and are its best custodians. And so how long have you had the farm for then?
We had the farm now for 34 years.
Yeah.
To lose one farmer, it's sad. To lose 1,000 farmers that's been killed, I think it's a genocide. You know, these farm attackers, if they come in, they don't just kill the farmer. They torture them. They rape the women and the children.
Looking at the statistics which you talk about, crime is everywhere in South Africa. It's rampant, isn't it? White farmers are dying, but black people are dying as well, aren't they?
Black people are dying as well, in their thousands. And like the farm attacks is not only on white farmers.
So it's not a white genocide, but a crime problem.
It's a crime problem in South Africa. But the thing with the farmers is there's literally thousands of farmers that's been killed.